Hey, what's up, guys? Sandeep here, and in this video, I'm gonna share my interview experience with Publicis Sapient. And I interviewed at Publicis Sapient for a core React developer profile, which was about 2 years of experience. So there was in all total of 3 rounds. The first round be the technical round, which was core React, and it was of 1 hour and 30 minutes. So these all rounds were pretty lengthy. And the second round was another like core HTML, CSS, and JavaScript round. And again, this round was also 1 hour 30 minutes. And the last round was the HR round. It took around 7 minutes or so for the HR discussion and other things. But this was all these rounds that I having, and this was quite lengthy interview actually, because if you see all the round was like 1 hour 30 minutes round for each technical and like for React as well as JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. So the first round started with React.js. It was of 1 hour 30 minutes, as I said before. The interview started with asking me the question, the basic difference between what is React and how it is different from Angular. The interviewer wanted me to like say whatever I understood about what is the framework for React and how is it different from Angular, which is by Google. The second question was like, what are the different ways that you have make API call on React? So I said the interviewer that I have made like API call with three different things. The basic, which be the fetch API that we use, which is the browser inbuilt. The second one we all have used is the Axios, and the third one is SWR. I really love the SWR. It is very beneficial in certain cases. If you want to learn more about SWR, you can Google it up. But that is also very good, like data fetching library that I'm liking recently. So you guys also can check that out. The third was like explain the total React workflow, like what are how state works, how props works, and all these things, and why is it called a single page application and one way data binding. So every all in one, like the whole React workflow, how it works and how like how things works on React. So the interviewer wanted to know. The fourth was like how you can pass data from child to parent. So generally from parent to child we do it via props, and from child to parent we do it via callbacks. Okay, so he explicitly told me to write an example for that. The fifth question was like how are class components different from functional components. Now this comes for preferences. Now I have said few points why I prefer functional components rather than class components. The interviewer was countering me like why is it something like that. I have explained a few points here and there on both of these concepts. The sixth was like what is shadow DOM and how is it different from virtual DOM. You can Google all these things up on Google, you will get the answers. What is context API, and can we have multiple providers, like can we have multiple providers for every context that we build actually. So this was the question. The eighth question, within the eighth question, the interview asked me to code an app, something like this. I'll tell you what is basically this. Within in your screen, you can see there is a section called to do, in progress, and completed. So basically, you will see this all these items in Jira. So he basically told me how it works in Jira. You need to replicate the whole thing. For example, I have in to do task 1, task 2, and task 3. In progress I have task 4, and completed maybe I have task 5, right? So what should happen, the interviewer asked me, if I click any of the task on to do, let's say I click on task 2, task 2 should move to in progress. On clicking of task 2 it should move to in progress, and in progress if I click on task 2 again it should move to completed. So this is the whole workflow that the interviewer wanted me to implement by writing by coding in code sandbox. And he gave me around 15 minutes of time to do this one. The ninth question that came was like, what are render props? Can you explain? And have you used in your projects or like whatever coding you have done in React? The 10th was like different lifecycle methods. And he gave me a specifically console log statement based on all these lifecycle methods. And he was asking me to tell which one would run first, which one would run second, which component will render twice, and something like that. So it was like a kind of a tricky console log statements. The 11th was like, what are the different React hooks that I've used? And I said all of them that I've used, basically use memo, use callback, uh, like use ref, use state, and use effect, and all these things. The 12th question the interviewer asked, he said me to explain the different scenarios for use effect hook and where the use effect hook will be use case. Basically, he wanted me to explain all the things like component it mount, component will unmount, component it update, and all these things. The 13th question was like he told me to make a timer which will decrease by 1 every 1 second. So basically, let's say I'll make a function and let's say the component runs, and I'll give a value of 10 by default to that timer, and every 1 second the timer will decrease by 1 second. So basically you can use a set interval within like use effect once the component mounts and the timer will start. So you can do this. The 14th was like what is the use of use memo, use callback, and react.memo. Explain. Write your own memoization function. So this is something new. Basically the interviewer told me to write my own memoization function just like use memo. So I did it because I have practiced this memoization thing before. So yeah. The 16th was like make a custom input hook that is reusable. So basically he was saying me make an input, okay, using react hooks. Basically make an input hook like use input as an react hook. Wherever I want to import like wherever I want to use input, I can input that hook and use it throughout my whole component directory. So basically it's a hook he was saying me to mention, I mean make. The 17th was like explain higher order components. So yeah, like what is compound component pattern? This is something I couldn't answer. Like what is compound component pattern? So you guys can look up on Google for this answer. uh, and there was like few questions on react router, why we need exact versus the use of switch. Yeah, and how do I get params or something from that? What is like use router higher order component, why is it is use case, and all these questions based on react router. So number 20 was like how does redux work and what is the need of middlewares in react. The 22nd question, the interview asked me about explain error boundaries and write a sample error boundary structure. So if you don't know, error boundaries are basically used as a fallback. So let's say you have your web application hosted or deployed to live, and let's say it got crashed in some point of time, and you're not able to access it, and you're getting a error page or something. At that time, you should have a fallback where your every single like if you get any single error within your website, that fallback page should show up and not just like random errors. Okay, so for that fallback page to show up, you can use this error boundary that you can customly make. You can, what you can do, basically you can wrap your parent, okay, within error boundary. So you basically wrap your parent component within error boundary just like you do on redux. You wrap using a provider. So you need to wrap your component within error boundaries, and within error boundaries it's basically a component error boundaries. You need to explicitly make something. You need to use component did catch, and you need to catch the error, and if there is an error, you will show, let's say, certain image or certain text you want to do. You can customize on your own. So if you want to know more in depth of error boundaries, you can just google it up. You will get it on Google. Number 23 was like how do you optimize a react component. Like 24th was like react testing. So he gave me a basic testing to do. He gave me an input, and whenever I type something on the input, it reflects to a div. Actually, I'm using that value within a div, so I can see whatever I am typing in a div. So he wanted me to write a sample test for the input, like whatever the number of string that I'm entering, he want me to test that what the string is matching the string that I'm entering on the div. So it's a basic one actually. Number 25th was like basics TypeScript questions and Webpack questions. 26 was like difference between like server side rendering and static side generation is like all the basic difference. The 27 like what is Next.js, Gatsby, and some questions all like how it is better than React. So all these questions were coming up because of server side rendering. I said on a few points. So that's why the interviewer asked me questions on server side rendering, which is like Next.js. Basically you can use on that. 20th like what are service workers and explain some use case. So if you don't know service workers, basically it will run on a different stack, you can say. within the browser itself. And the use case that I said, like uh, in short, what I can say is, like, let's say you see all this image compression websites, right, where you upload, or your image converter website. Let's say you upload your JPG and you want to convert your JPG into PNG. So you see, when you upload your website and start converting it, it shows you it shows in the UI that it's converting. But it what it does is, basically, that converter is not converting your the whole procedure of converting, or the algorithm is not running on your main call stack. Okay, not the main browser call stack. It's not running. It's running on a separate call stack, not a call stack, basically separate stack, which is run by service workers actually. So what in term happens is, basically, your main call stack doesn't get affected, and it doesn't get blocked. So even though your image is processing, or your image is converting, still you can access every part of your website, that is totally working, and the website doesn't lag at all. If you were to use it on the same call stack, then your website will be very laggy, because it will be blocking. Yeah, the conversion will take time, and it will block the whole process within the same call stack. So that is why we basically need service worker. So whenever you need to do cost effective, very costly performant work or task, you can move the whole task to service worker, and your main thread or your main call stack will always be empty for other tasks to handle. So that is why, if you want more on this, you can just Google it up again. Number 29th was like, what is tree shaking, Babel, and prop types. So tree shaking, Babel, and prop types, again, you can read it up on Google. These are like some concepts that you will sometime need on interviews as well. Yeah, so this was pretty much it that I had for the round of 1 hour 30 minutes on total of React.js. Just guys, so go through all the questions. I hope this will help on your next any sets of interviews that you give. I'll be bringing more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and bye bye.